Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 171, Beauty and the Breeder. The episode begins with Ash and the gang currently at a Pokemon Center, with Brock deciding that he should probably check his emails, as it has been a while. Sure enough, he finds an email from none other than Susie, that breeder who entrusted him with Vulpix. As Ash and Misty were eating some ice cream that they had just picked up down the street, they questioned Brock on who the email is from, having missed what it actually said due to being gone. Brock informs them that it was from Susie, reminding them of who she was, and revealing that she was going to be taking part in a Pokemon contest, but she currently didn't have a Pokemon of her own, so she required one from somebody else, and had requested that Brock bring one of his. Brock apologized, stating that he knew they had to be going to Ecruteak City, but he really wanted to see Susie, as it had been quite a while. And frankly, I wanted to see her too, man. It's not often that we see a character of the day return. So, with that, Ash and Misty agreed to come with Brock as he went off to Bonitaville to give Susie one of his Pokemon, who he decided was going to be Vulpix. It turned out that there was a reason for this, but Misty and Ash didn't know that yet. So when they arrived into town and saw many trainers with stylish-looking Pokemon, Ash immediately questioned what the fuck all the Pokemon were wearing, because he thought it was a catching contest like the one Misty had just entered and the bug catching contest that he had entered previously. He even got excited and was thinking about which Pokemon to use. Brock clarifies, though, that it wasn't no catching contest, it was a beauty contest. Misty immediately thought that this made more sense now, as beauty contests were usually meant for breeders. So this led Misty to ask Brock if he was going to take the opportunity to enter with Susie, but Brock denied this, stating that he was only going to enter in Vulpix, as Vulpix was really his only stylish Pokemon that he had, and Vulpix had to go to Susie. Brock then proceeds to groom Vulpix, stating that he had to make it look as good as possible for the contest, and tells Ash and Misty that they should groom themselves up so that Susie could be impressed with their beauty as well. Ash and Misty retort that Susie was interested in Pokemon beauty, not human beauty, but point out that even if she did, Brock would be the one that needs to groom up, as he was the ugliest and most unfit one there. Upon hearing this, Brock realizes that Ash and Misty were right, and proceeds to change into a fancy white tuxedo in order to impress Susie. Alright then, simp. Brock clearly thought he was hot shit now in this tuxedo, but unfortunately, Ash just thought that he looked like the ice cream man that he had got ice cream from. Damn, Brock, you're just catching strays here. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had just entered Bonitaville as well, and were in amazement at a town that cared so much about the beauty of Pokemon, as they looked at all the numerous Pokemon around them that were dressed up so beautifully. Jesse and James were even more excited when they saw a poster advertising the contest going on, stating how they could finally express their true beauty if they entered the contest as well. Essentially, what you should know about Team Rocket by now is that they really cared about beauty. I mean, that should be obvious with the amount of disguises they wore. They really cared about fashion and all that shit. And speaking of their disguises, they were currently wearing some stylist outfits right now. Team Rocket were so interested in fashion that they had decided that they were going to enter the contest themselves and try and win it, stating that if they did, they would become superstars and finally be able to achieve their dream of leaving Team Rocket and opening a beauty salon, which would bring the attention of all the media, meaning that they would get a TV show of their own, because, the media love reality TV, and they would make plenty of money and be able to afford all the food they want, practically salivating at the millions of dollars that they would get. Meowth then suggested that Team Rocket enter him into the beauty contest and give him a makeover so that he could be responsible for making Team Rocket successful, wanting to be useful to the team. Jesse and James happily obliged as they began their makeover, preparing to enter the contest and make millions, baby. Would they actually do it? We'll find out. Meanwhile, back with Ash and the gang, they were trying to find Susie so Brock could deliver Vulpix. Brock had picked up roses on the way, as he wanted to do everything in his power to try and impress Susie while he was in town. As for Misty, though, she had actually went off on her own, leaving Ash and Brock to look for Susie by themselves, as she had gotten bored and said that she had spotted something in the distance that she found more intriguing. I wonder what that was. We'll find out soon. Anyways, as Ash and Brock are looking for Susie, they spot plenty of beautifully dressed Pokemon, such as a Goldeen, a Tangela, a Primeape with beautiful hair, and Ash questions how the fuck the judges were going to decide which Pokemon was the most beautiful, stating that that seemed like something that was pretty subjective. And Brock countered, though, that it wasn't entirely just based on a Pokemon's beauty, it was also based on how the Pokemon was raised. Emphasis on why the contest was made exclusively for breeders, because breeders raised Pokemon. Just then, Vulpix leaped out of Brock's arms and began to run away, leaving Ash and Brock to panic as they chased after it. However, Vulpix had only ran away because it had spotted Susie, so it led Ash and Brock directly to her. Vulpix and Ash eagerly greet Susie, with Vulpix licking Susie's face, missing its original owner, but Brock, on the other hand, despite being so gung-ho to meet Susie, was nervous as fuck, and could barely even hand her the flowers, which he tried to hide behind. But he eventually managed to get up the courage and give them to her, thanking Susie for letting him keep Vulpix for so long. Susie thanks him in return, stating that she could already see that Brock had done a way better job of raising Vulpix than she had done, and was extremely happy to have her back. Ash questions what Susie and Brock were fucking talking about, as he had thought that Brock was just lending her Vulpix for the contest, but it seemed like Brock was actually fully giving Vulpix back. Brock clarifies that this was indeed the case, stating that he had to return Vulpix at some point, and he had figured that this would be the perfect opportunity since Susie was in town anyways. Ash questioned why Susie was making Brock give Vulpix back, but Susie clarified to him that it was actually Brock's decision to give Vulpix back. She actually gave him the option to keep Vulpix, knowing that it was in his better hands, but Brock had decided to give it back, stating that he believed that Vulpix should reunite with its original trainer. Susie could see, as Brock and Ash were departing, having successfully delivered Vulpix, that Brock was still having some reservations, obviously. I mean, him and Vulpix were close. He knew that he had to give back Vulpix, but it didn't mean that he was going to be super thrilled about it. So, Susie came up with the idea to have Brock actually enter the contest as her partner, knowing that Brock would be able to handle Vulpix very good as well, so he could probably help them win. Brock instantly accepted, although he passed out due to shock that Susie would actually think so highly of him. turning beet red in the process. This led Ash to suggest that Misty either get him some water or drag him off to help with his simping, as usual, but then he remembered that Misty wasn't there, and questioned where the fuck she was. Well, it turns out that the thing that Misty had spotted that caught her attention earlier was a beautiful Ninetales, and she was so enamored by it that she went up to it and its owner and started bombarding the owner with a whole bunch of fucking questions to the point where the owner was getting annoyed, and he told her to shut the fuck up and go the fuck away. Misty tries to apologize, as she really didn't want to leave the Ninetales, but just then, Susie, Brock, and Ash come up, having been looking for Misty, and Susie tells the man that Misty was talking to, Ninetales' owner, to stop being so rude, calling him by his name, Zane, in the process, revealing that him and Susie knew each other. Zane, respecting Susie, and perhaps even having a little infatuation towards her, much like Brock did, instantly obliged to Susie's request, and apologized to Misty for his rudeness. Stating how he was happy that Misty thought his Ninetales was so beautiful, he just didn't like all the questions. Having calmed down, Susie then invites Zane to join Ash and the gang and her for some tea, where she reveals their backstory. Essentially, her and Zane have both wanted to be Pokemon breeders ever since they were young, and they had even attended the same Pokemon nursery together, where they learned how to be breeders. Also stating that they had been rivals since they both wanted to be breeders, obviously, and that's why they both decided to raise Vulpix to see who could raise a better Vulpix. Brock got jealous of Susie and Zane's closeness, so he tried to correct Zane and Susie that they shouldn't be rivals, but they should instead be enemies and hate each other because they both were raising Vulpix. Zane retorts, also having a crush on Susie and not wanting to be shown up by Brock at all, that him and Susie were not enemies and that they were actually really close and had quite a bit in common, including their desire to win. Zane proving his desire to win by stating that that's why he decided to evolve his Vulpix with a Firestone, so that he would have a better chance at winning the contest, as opposed to Susie's Vulpix. Wanting to rub it in Brock's face that he likely didn't have a chance with Susie, Misty agreed that, yes, Zane and Susie had a lot in common, insinuating that they should get together. However, Susie countered that, although they did have quite a few things in common, they also had some disagreements as well. A big one being what made a Pokemon truly beautiful. Susie, as we knew, believed that what made a Pokemon truly beautiful was what was in its heart, or the inside, whereas Zane believed that the true beauty came from the outside, aka just your stereotypical fashion shit. Brock obviously thought that Pokemon's true beauty came from the inside as well, and believed that all breeders should have that mindset, so he told that to Zane, only for Zane to call his beliefs old school and fucking cheesy as hell. This pissed Brock off, but Zane simply ignored Brock, as he admires Vulpix's outer beauty, stating that just proved his point. However, Susie countered that what was truly beautiful about Vulpix was the happy glow in its eyes that it had achieved due to its bond with her and Brock. This just makes Zane laugh, still respecting Susie's opinion, as he then decides to go off and prepare for the contest. When Zane's gone, Susie sees that Brock was still angry, and tells him to calm down, assuring him that Zane meant well. He was just very passionate about his beliefs, calling Zane actually sweet deep down. This just angered Brock more though, as he didn't want to hear how much Susie liked Zane, so Susie calmed him down by assuring Brock that he was sweet too. Brock then clarifies that he was determined to prove Zane's ideology wrong, and that he was going to help Susie win the contest with Vulpix, and Susie agreed, although she didn't think Brock had to be so forward about it. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had finished their preparations for the contest as well, having fully decked Meowth with some face paint, including purple lips and pink and orange eyes. Meowth was in utter disgust at his appearance. He thought he was ugly as fuck, and he thought he was so ugly that he was beginning to cry, and he threatened Jessie and James that he would reveal that they were actually Team Rocket members just because he hated his disguise so much, or he hated his outfit so much, and this led Jessie and James to cover his mouth, warning him not to do so, otherwise they would beat his ass. As the contest is about to begin, Ash and Misty sit in the audience stands and look at all of the Pokemon being shown off on the screen as their numbers were introduced. There was an Onix with some red stripes, a Gengar with some stars, a Dugtrio all with different hairstyles. And then they see Brock and Susie's Vulpix and Zane's Ninetales, indicating that Brock and Susie would go, and then Zane would be right after, further proving that they were destined to be rivals if they were right next to each other. Since Brock and Susie were number 37, they still had a while until they were up, so Brock took the time to give Susie a pep talk, ensuring them that they could win, since they made a great team. Totally not trying to hint at the fact that they should get together or anything. No. Just then, the number 1 contestant is called up onto the stage, who apparently had a Meryl. However, as this kid was going up on the stage, he was intercepted by Team Rocket, who captured him. This allows Team Rocket to take their place as they go on stage with their dressed-up Weezing and Victory Bell, along with Meowth and also Wobbuffet with a wacky hairstyle, as they proceed to introduce themselves, doing their motto, although of course they don't introduce themselves as Team Rocket this time. The crowd is very impressed by all of Team Rocket's beautiful Pokemon, and their motto for some reason. That's why people actually like their motto, and Zane was even so impressed that he was going to go up to the stage and personally compliment Team Rocket on their beautiful Pokemon, shaking Jessie's hand and stating how he thought that they were unique. Jessie was amazed at the compliment, and explained how people usually said that Weezing and Victreebel were gross-looking Pokemon, and she was glad that someone else didn't think this, stating that you could even make gross Pokemon beautiful with makeovers, to which Zane agreed. As Brock overheard this from the waiting room, he doubted what Zane and Jessie had agreed on, stating that there were some Pokemon that probably couldn't be fixed with makeovers, adding that his Onix was probably one of them, explaining why that was important to raise your Pokemon to show their true beauty on the inside, because Onix was beautiful on the inside, maybe just not the outside. Just then, it was revealed that the contestant with the Meryl that Team Rocket had captured had managed to escape somehow, and contacted Officer Jenny to inform her of the incident, so him and Officer Jenny interrupted Team Rocket's performance and ran on stage, explaining to the audience about what had happened. Officer Jenny threatens to throw Team Rocket out of the contest, but Jesse rebuttals that their contest number was 259, stating that by the time that they got on, the judges probably would have already picked a favorite, and they would have had no chance to win anyways, so they had to try and get on earlier. But Officer Jenny wasn't having any of their excuses, and threw them out anyways. I mean, honestly, Team Rocket should just be thankful that they weren't arrested. They tried to kidnap somebody. Team Rocket tried to explain that they were destined to win, but this doesn't work either, and they are literally fucking tossed outside, as all their Pokemon land on top of them. Meowth then scratches Jesse and James as punishment for their failure, stating that he was so close to being seen as this super beautiful Pokemon and he would have gotten all famous and shit, but then Team Rocket fucked it up. Jesse and James rebuttal that they tried their best, but Meowth simply scoffs and states that he had a better plan than fucking kidnapping, as he tells Jesse and James to disguise themselves in doctor outfits. While Team Rocket was gone for a little bit, the contest was able to continue as normal, and it was almost time for Susie and Brock to go on stage, so Ash and Misty decided to visit the waiting room and wish them luck, and noticed that Brock and Susie were nervous, so they assured them that they would do fine. Suddenly, Team Rocket had activated their new plan, coming disguised as doctors into the waiting room, where a whole bunch of other trainers, aside from Susie, Brock, Ash, and Misty, were waiting, and they explained that all the Pokemon now, for some reason, needed to be medically examined before they were allowed on stage, and it confirmed that any of their owners weren't allowed to come with them, otherwise they would be disqualified. Before any of the breeders can question what the fuck Team Rocket were doing, Team Rocket take all the Pokemon and lock the door, and bring all the Pokemon into a cage in their Meowth balloon. When Jesse and James return to the Meowth balloon, they congratulate Meowth on coming up with a successful plan. After sitting in the locked room for quite a while, all the breeders realize that they were probably tricked in some way, so Zane demands that someone unlock the goddamn door so that they can get out and investigate. As Brock sends his Geodude to break down the door, the audience began to get worried, as it had been way too long since any contestants actually arrived on stage. With the door broken down, all the breeders run out, and they immediately see Team Rocket taking off with all the Pokemon in their Meowth balloon, so this leads Ash to send out his Noctowl to puncture a hole in the balloon and send it crashing down, along with the container holding all the Pokemon. Ash then has Pikachu use Thunderbolt to break the lock holding the Pokemon, allowing them to go free and reunite with their trainers, much to Jessie's anger, as she blamed Meowth for not coming up with a countermeasure for Ash's Pikachu, stating how he usually fucking fucked up their plan in some way, although Meowth retorted that it was actually Jessie and James' fault, as they simply took too long to fly off in the Meowth balloon, that it gave the breeders time to realize that something was up. In an attempt to get the Pokemon back, Team Rocket send out their Arbok and Victreebel, though of course, Victreebel eats James first, although it is able to eventually go in for a Razor Leaf, but Susie and Zane order their Vulpix and Ninetales respectively to burn up the leaves with Flamethrower. Ash tried to jump in, but Victreebel just fired another Razor Leaf at Pikachu, catching him off guard, leading Ninetales and Vulpix to come to Pikachu's rescue and burn the leaves once again, as Susie and Zane just informed Ash that he should let them handle this one, stating that they wanted to prove to Team Rocket that stealing Pokemon was an evil disgrace, although I doubt you would ever be able to prove that to Team Rocket. Anyways, Jessie then orders her Arbok to attack Vulpix and Ninetales, but it was unable to, as Vulpix and Ninetales unleashed 2 Fire Spins, which were powerful enough to send Team Rocket blasting off, burning away. Damn. Ash and Misty notice how good Susie and Zane looked as a team, and how well they worked together, stating how that just proved that they were a good match for each other after all, and Brock reluctantly agreed, stating that he now knew that Zane was a better romantic partner for Susie. Damn, what character development, Brock. Anyways, with Team Rocket gone, the contest could now resume as normal, and Susie and Brock went back to the waiting room, about to go up for their performance. Brock was nervous that Vulpix would be able to perform well, stating that maybe Zane should be the one to help Susie, now being fully convinced that he wasn't a good match for her. But Susie assures Brock that Vulpix needed it, which inspires him to continue on stage. However, before they do, Zane then comes up to both Susie and Brock, and reveals that when him and Susie fought against Team Rocket, it had made him realize that they could really do some incredible things as a team, and suggested that they open up a joint Pokemon nursery. Reasoning that if they did, then it could be a nursery that focused on both the inside beauty and outside beauty of Pokemon, revealing that he had realized the importance of both. Yay, happy ending. Susie doesn't want Brock to be upset about her joining with Zane instead of him, so he asks him what he thinks of the idea, and Brock reveals that he was totally fine with it, once again confirming that he had ended his infatuation with Susie, believing that Zane was the better match. However, just because Zane was a better match for Susie didn't mean that Brock wasn't the better match for Vulpix, so he's still prepared to go up with Susie for their performance, although before he did, Zane pulled him aside for a chat, and confessed that he was initially jealous of Brock, as Susie had raved about him over and over again. Though he now saw the reason why Susie liked Brock so much, thanking him for all of his help that he had done, for both Vulpix and Susie. Brock reacted surprised at this, although it didn't make him go back to Susie, thankfully. He truly had moved on. But damn it, Brock, you were so close. You could have actually had a girl this time. Susie really liked you. Aw, damn, man. The episode then ends as Susie and Brock finally go to perform with Vulpix, as the audience cheers them on, indicating that they were doing very well, although we never actually get to see if they ended up winning the contest or not. But it didn't matter, as I'd say Brock had grown quite a fucking bit during this episode. He was able to not uncontrollably simp for a girl. Character development, even though I'm sure he'll be back to simping in the next episode, because before Horizons, the anime barely has any continuity, to be honest.